This predator could die from a single mistake, not because it's weak, but because of how it hunts. If it bites at the wrong angle, its own teeth can break, and once that happens, it doesn't hunt again. This is Smilodon, the saber-toothed cat. At first glance, it looks like the perfect predator. A powerful body, heavier than most modern lions. Some estimates place it at over 300 kilograms. Built not just for strength, but for control from the very beginning. And those long, iconic teeth, longer than a human finger, visible even when the mouth is closed. But those teeth were never meant for strength. They were made for something else. They were made for precision. Long and thin, more like blades than tools for crushing. They could cut effectively, but they couldn't handle the wrong kind of force. They weren't built to twist. They weren't built to take impact, and they certainly weren't built for mistakes. So the animal couldn't afford one. That single limitation shaped everything, because when your own weapon is fragile, you don't fight the way other predators do. You don't rely on speed. You don't rely on repeated attempts. You rely on control. So the hunt begins long before the bite. Because the real challenge isn't killing. It's removing uncertainty. Movement introduces risk, and risk leads to failure. So the saber-toothed cat focused on one thing first: stopping movement. Its body reflects that purpose. Short, powerful limbs, a heavy frame, forelimbs strong enough to grapple animals nearly its own size. This wasn't an animal built for long chases. It was built to close distance and take control. It approaches quietly. Then, in a brief moment, it commits. Not to kill immediately, but to destabilize, to bring the prey off balance, to pull it down. Because once the prey is on the ground, everything becomes simpler. Fewer variables, less movement, less risk. And only then does the bite happen.
The jaws open wide, wider than most modern cats. Not to increase force, but to place the teeth correctly. Then the head moves down, carefully, deliberately, not like a clamp, but like a guided motion. The teeth enter soft tissue, the throat or the underside of the neck, areas that don't resist. Because these teeth were not designed to fight through bone, they were designed to avoid it. The result is quick, controlled, and final. Because it has to be. There is no room for correction, no second attempt. If the angle is wrong, the teeth can break. If the prey moves unexpectedly, the risk increases. So everything before the bite exists to reduce that risk. The approach, the impact, the restraint. All of it leads to one moment, and that moment has to work. Other predators can afford mistakes. They can try again, but this one couldn't. One failure and the system collapses. No effective weapon, no successful hunts, no long-term survival. Because failure doesn't mean losing the hunt, it means the hunt ends forever. And that is what makes the saber-toothed cat so unusual. It wasn't just powerful, it was constrained. And that constraint forced a different kind of strategy, not faster, not stronger, but more controlled. Because in this system, survival didn't come from overpowering prey, it came from removing the chance to fail. From making the outcome predictable before the final move even begins. Because when failure carries that much cost, you don't leave anything to chance. You make sure you only act when you're already certain.
And that is how this predator survived. Not by being the strongest, but by never allowing itself to be wrong.